When I entered third grade, I was assigned to a teacher who struggled with organization. It was only his second year of teaching, and I had a hard time understanding the structure of the class. Looking back, I now realize that being autistic made it especially difficult for me to adapt to an environment that felt unpredictable and unstructured. I depended heavily on routines, clear expectations, and consistency. When those things were missing, I often felt confused and overwhelmed. My parents fought hard to have me transferred into a different classroom. Eventually, I was placed with a teacher who had previously taught my older brother. Even after the transfer, though, I continued to struggle. I would sometimes forget to turn in my homework, and when our class started learning cursive, I felt completely lost. Certain letters seemed impossible for me to write, especially the capital D and the lowercase s. My dad spent hours trying to teach me, but the lessons often ended in tears and meltdowns. I couldn't understand where the curly part of the capital D came from, and the lowercase s made even less sense to me. I remember thinking, why can't we just write in print? Eventually, I learned, but it wasn't easy. It took patience, repetition, and a lot of frustration. Like many things in my childhood, I relied heavily on rote memory. Rather than intuitively understanding how the letters were formed, I memorized the movements needed to create them. Over time, what once felt impossible became second nature. Ironically, the two letters that caused me the most frustration, the cursive capital D and lowercase s, eventually became my favorite letters to write. My auntie Patty, who was a special education teacher, attended a conference in Los Angeles where she first heard about Linda Mood Bell. When she returned home, she told my mom about the program and thought it might help me. Together, my mom and Auntie Patty researched Linda Mood Bell and eventually agreed that it was worth trying. Before I could enroll, Linda Mood Bell conducted a series of assessments. They asked me questions, gave me different tasks to complete, and evaluated how I processed information. One question they asked was, "What is the opposite of a wedding?" Without hesitation, I answered, "A funeral." Looking back, my reasoning made perfect sense to me. One characteristic of autism is that we sometimes make connections differently than other people. Instead of focusing on the social meaning of a wedding, I focused on the emotional meaning. A wedding is happy. A funeral is sad. Since happy and sad are opposites, a funeral seems like the obvious answer. Another assessment involved following a series of verbal instructions. For example, an instructor might say, "Draw a line through the triangle, then draw a line from the circle to the square. Afterwards, put an X on the circle. Do it now." I struggled with tasks like this because I wasn't visualizing the instructions. Instead of creating a mental picture, I tried to memorize every step. Many autistic people develop alternative strategies when information is presented in a way that doesn't match how their brain processes it. My strategy was memory. I relied on repetition rather than visualization. As the instructor spoke, I would silently repeat the directions to myself over and over again. Sometimes I could remember all of them, but often I would forget the final instruction because there was simply too much information for me to hold in my memory at once. What I didn't realize at the time was that many people were using mental imagery to keep track of the instructions. They weren't just memorizing words, they were seeing the shapes and actions in their minds. I wasn't doing that. I was relying entirely on memory. Looking back, I wonder how much of my difficulty was related not only to reading challenges, but also to differences in how my autistic brain processed language and visual information. After reviewing the assessment results, my family decided that Linda Mood Bell would be a good fit for me. During the summers after 3rd and 4th grade, I attended the Linda Mood Bell Center in Saratoga, California, Monday through Friday from 1 p.m. to 5 p.m. Every 50 minutes, I rotated to a different instructor, learning the strategies they believed would help me become a better reader. There was one problem. I wasn't actually visualizing anything. While everyone thought I was making progress, I had developed ways to hide what I was really experiencing. In the next video, I'll explain why Linda Moon Bell ultimately failed to address the challenge I was facing.